Hello all and welcome to a battle between Croissant Talbot in charge of the Wood Elves up against the Grey Warden commanding the High Elves. So we have a pointy ear civil war right here. And just for a little bit of context, there was a King of the Hill tournament going on the other day that I was streaming, and this is the final game from that. Unfortunately, we had a game crash. We didn't get to see who won. But the current King of the Hill, as you can see deployed right up on this hill right here, is Croissant Talbot himself. So let's go through his list. Now, for the front line, it looks like he has gone for several groups of the Dryads. Quite like this pick, as these guys can tear apart spearmen and kind of chaffy high elf infantry very quickly. He's got those guys backed up on either flank with a unit of Eternal Guards with shields, just to try and help deal with any cav and add a bit of stability as well to that front line. Now, in a front vanguard, he has 1, 2, 3 units of Deepwood Scouts, all in their hidden stalk mode at the moment. These guys are basically cheaper and cheerful Way Watchers. They don't do as much damage, definitely not as much burst damage, but they're a lot cheaper and fulfill a fairly similar role. He also has 1 unit of Wild Riders up in the trees. These guys are one of my favourite units thematically. Look how badass these guys look. Vengeful elves riding stags, and these guys are very, very powerful shock cavalry, super quick, and very, very deadly. So nice to see how he manages to use those. Up in the sky, we do have a fearsome forest dragon just floating above the trees here. Forest dragons, I sometimes get mine killed, unfortunately, as they can be a little bit squishy for, what you'd expect a big scaly beast to be. However, it gives you great mobility and a lot of added punch. In deep reserve here, we have some War Dancers with Azrai Spears. Excellent choice, nice anti-large, and they're very quick for infantry as well, so you can get them where you need to. For leadership, he has gone for Big Papa Durfu himself, an absolute beast of a combatant who also comes with some nice spells. So here's the Sword of Daith, which is a very powerful area direct damage effect. Super powerful ability. Lamination of Despair. He's also brought Transformation of Kadon as well for those Manticore summons. It looks like he also has a Branch Wraith leading the Dryad part of his army, which makes sense with quite a few spells actually. We have Earthblood for that healing, Melkov's Mystifying Miasma. We also have the Pendulum, which can be very, very good against those tightly packed high elf forces. So that looks like it's all of that for Croissant's forces. Let's go over here and have a look at the Warden's High Elves. So he's gone for a much more tightly packed formation. If you look at the mini-map, you can see how crazily spread out these Wood Elves are, which is as expected, but their high elf kin are a lot more regimented and tight-packed. Now up front, he has 2 units of Shadow Warriors looking to probably trade with Way Watchers and so forth, and it'd be interesting to see how they fare up against the Deepwood Scouts. For his front line, he has 3 units of Spearmen, just as a nice early buffer, including the Regiment of the Round version, and they're going to be backed up by the much more elite Swords Masters of Hoeth, who are really able to chop through Wood Elf infantry very, very effectively. Now, I like this little plan in the back right here. So we have 2 units of the Sisters of Avalon, some of the best ranged units in the game. They do huge amounts of burst damage. However, as you can see, they're in a very regimented, tight formation. Makes them excellent for shooting. However, spells like Wind Blast and whatnot can really one-shot these guys very badly. But they're going to be guarding a Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, and all of this is in the range of all of the buffs of a Handmaiden of the Everqueen. I have started to see this a little bit in multiplayer. So you get the Handmaiden, and she has a ton of good buffs. So she has Quick Silver Shot, plus 10%, or 10, sorry, reload speed for everyone in this big area. So it's hitting all of the Sisters of Avalon, also that repeater bolt thrower, so very good there. Also affects herself, I believe. Also Horn of Isha for plus 5 reload skill and plus 5 melee attack. And an Enchanted Spyglass, plus 10% missile damage, making this a very potent missile force. And for his leadership, he has gone for Teclis, so let's have a little look at his spells quickly before we get this battle underway. So he has brought the Sword of Teclis, which you would kind of expect, Scroll of Hoeth, Bound for a Convocation. Very interested to see how that plays out here. It's not a spell I see very often. Potion, of course, of Troy, Regrowth, very nice, Flock of Doom, Enfeebling Foe, Flaming Sword of Ruin, Chain Lightning, plus his net. So he's gone heavy on his magic. We'll see how many of those spells he manages to pull off. So it looks like we have some early skirmish play here, as the 2 sets of skirmishers do spot each other. Shadow Warriors have lost a tiny bit of health, and it looks like they're trying to focus down the Forest Dragon, whereas Croissant instead decides to send his Deepwood Scouts in a rather large arc round this hill, trying to get a nice flanking position, probably up on here, I suspect, to shoot down upon the defensive position of the High Elves. Shadow Warriors still going after that dragon, but some very top tier play here. Just strafing back and forth with the Forest Dragon, making those guys waste as many shots as possible. And they don't have, unlimited ammo. They've got a bit, but it looks like only 16 volleys left. And they've done basically no damage, and you can see the amount of ammo they've already used. But 2 units firing in there, even with this kind of tactic of dodging left and right, you are going to take some HP damage. And it looks like they've managed to nip a little bit there, maybe just loosen a scale or 2. So the rest of the Wood Elves are just chilling at the moment, whilst the dragon tries to waste some ammo, and these Deepwood Scouts get into position. So it looks like they're going to go all the way up to these trees, which is going to be really nice. So they should be able to get some decent side shots on maybe some of the Swordmasters, or even the Spearmen, now that their shields won't be as effective, obviously being hit in the flank. Looks like the Repeater Bolt Thrower has also, or the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, sorry, has got its target set now. It looks like it's trying to fling some shots towards the Forest Dragon. He's really trying to do some early damage here, but as you can see, I mean, there's a little bit of HP damage there, but nothing too crazy. So let's fast forward a bit just through this skirmish phase of the battle. It looks like for the most part the High Elves are starting to draw themselves back, trying to not get turned up too much about this Forest Dragon, but still actually looks like they are going to be chasing it. And as we can see, the first part of the Wood Elf ambush has begun. So the Deepwood Scouts shooting as they're moving here, and they're flinging some shots into the flank here of the Swordmasters, which is a really nice pick. Also trying to get on top of the Sisters of Avalon, 2 very expensive units, getting shots in the side. But it looks like the Sisters are going to be responding, turning around face to shoot back, but 3 on 1. Yes, they're very elite, but they're shooting at skirmishers, who of course have this very spacious way of deploying. That means that arrows are a lot harder to find targets, but the Repeater Bolt Thrower has also turned its aim, and it's going to be trading. It looks like the Wood Elves are going to be using this distraction to move up the rest of their forces. The Forest Dragon has actually taken a huge amount of damage now. Looks like it took quite a few volleys from the Sisters of Avalon. Those guys are overextending just a little bit here, and I did just hear an Earthblood going down on that dragon, trying to top him back up again. Now Warden has to be really careful with his skirmishers here, pull them back and protect them with his Spearmen and Swordmasters. Over on the flank here, it looks like the Sisters of Avalon are getting deleted just by the sheer amount of firepower, but in retaliation, the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower has done quite a lot of HP damage as well. It looks like we're going to be getting a pendulum swinging down here as well on top of these Deepwood Scouts. Oh no, it is the Fiery Convocation. It'd be really cool to see this bird in action, and boom, streaks down, doing some huge damage. Really nice to see that spell actually doing pretty good. So over on the front line, Wild Riders have charged into some retreating Sisters of Avalon, but instantly realise they don't want to get tangled up with Swordmasters and do begin to flee the battlefield. So let's just take a quick overarching view as the dragon does a huge breath attack down on top of these Shadow Warriors, getting some decent damage, but also clipping a big Papa Durfu there. He's probably going to be having a word in a second. So just before the main engagement gets underway, let's just take into stock what is going on. So we have some Wild Riders being very cheeky in the back line, and they have an absolute direct link to this Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. Up on the high ground, it looks like the Deepwood Scouts are getting danger close to some Swordmasters, but this could be a very good situation for them. They're going to be faster than the Swordmasters, they can turn and shoot in a 360 line of fire, so they're going to be able to kite these guys and drag down a very expensive unit. What I think the High Elves should be doing, probably chasing it with some Spearmen, keeping these guys distance away and using the Swordmasters on the front line. But as we can see, the horde of the Wood Elves is starting to close in, and these Dryads are leaking from the forest and going to be hunting it down, the very range-centric High Elf build. So it looks like there's a big engagement going on in the middle, which we'll get to in a second, but there's also a huge charge coming in. Swordmasters on Dryads, and the Swordmasters will cut these guys down in seconds. The main engagement seems to be going over on here. We have Durfu, who's had Enfeebling Foe popped on him, plus the Forest Dragon going in against the Regiment Spearmen, who have Flaming Sword of Ruin, popped very good in this instance, giving them that fire damage against Durfu. And a net from Teclis does pin the Forest Dragon in place, so some very good plays here by the Warden. But in retaliation, some Wild Riders have popped in the back here on top of the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, and now has open rain here to pop on Shadow Warriors and the Sisters. And it looks like there is a ton of backline harass coming in. So very nice pick over here, but unfortunately all his ranged troops who could have benefited from this, doing damage, taking down the Forest Dragon and maybe sniping out Durfu, fortunately were overrun here by some very good play by the Wood Elves. Up on the high ground, it looks like those Swordmasters did meet their expected fate. Trying to chase off some Deepwood Scouts was never really going to go too well for them. It looks like they are going to be finished off. In the back line, Wild Riders getting some decent damage now, up to 41 kills, just hunting down units, doing what they do best. But a nice little bit of backline stabilisation as well from the High Elves. Shadow Warriors managing to shoot this dragon off the field, at least for now. And in the distance, I spy a unit left behind by the Wood Elves. This is just a pure showboat in here. War Dancers with Azrai Spears, just chilling out, watching the battle, waiting to decide if they need to get their precious hands dirty. So this battle is slowly going in favour of the Wood Elves, I believe, but it's not over yet. The High Elves still have a very healthy Lord. They have the Handmaiden of the Everqueen, and if they can rally their troops and maybe snipe out Durfu, this could be turned in their direction. Durfu does have Scroll of Hreth popped on him, and the Swordmasters doing a decent number over him. Unfortunately for them, though, a huge breath attack does come in from the Forest Dragon and just nukes that unit. We have another Flaming Phoenix coming into the battlefield, trying to shred some Dryads. It does fairly decent damage, but there was really only 2 units there. Not too good value on that one, at least compared to the original salvo. Now we have some Shadow Warriors rallying on this flank. Been sniping some shots in for a little while now, but unfortunately for them, they're going to meet the charging horns of the Wild Riders and their mounts. And these guys are going to go flying. And with that, the power of balance starts moving very heavily in favour of the Wood Elves. They've managed to just pick off and break into that back line with some very good precision strikes there. Teclis as well got a little danger close to Durfu. Looks like he tried getting in there with the sword of Teclis to snipe him out with the assistance of his spears. But unfortunately, Durfu was just too much tree for this little elf. And he's going to be getting swallowed whole here by a Forest Dragon. Not a good way to go for anyone really, but even Teclis. And it looks like the sight of their lord fleeing the battlefield and slowly getting devoured by a dragon is enough to force the remaining High Elves off the field. And that's going to be a Pyrrhic victory for the Wood Elves. So let's go to the end stats there. So only a Pyrrhic victory in the end. The Grey Warden did some fantastic play during the mid-game there to try and turn that game back in his favour, and he nearly managed to pull it off, doing huge damage to the Dragon and Durfu. If he managed to finish those guys off, it would have slowed down the mobility of the Wood Elf army and actually, given him a good fighting chance. But very, very good play here by Croissant, and a good mastery of his Wood Elf forces. As we can see, the Wild Riders up to 100 kills, not getting too kind of into the thick of the fighting, but picking off units, picking off that Eagle Claw Bolt Throw, which was doing a lot of damage to Durfu, and then just distracting the ranged troops and running down those fleeing troops as well, getting really good value out of these guys. And pretty decent play as well with these Deepwood Scouts. Nice to see them in multiplayer, haven't seen them used too often. Going around the flank and basically decimating one unit of Swordmasters of Hoeth, and also a unit of Sisters of Avalon, so some really great value overall. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please do leave a like, subscribe, and all that good fun stuff. If you want to support the channel in any other way, I do have a Patreon account just down below. So this was the final game of our King of the Hill little tournaments that we did run yesterday. Apologies this couldn't be up with the stream. But Croissant Talbot did go undefeated with 3 victories back to back. So he is the current King of the Hill. But perhaps you will be able to drag him down in the next King of the Hill, which I'm sure I'll be doing very soon. So hopefully see you then, guys. Until then, peace, and stay awesome.